To make my wishing well, I'm going to be using an assortment of boxes. To make the reinforcements for the box, I'm just using the width of my ruler, so I don't have to measure them, and I'm just drawing and scoring 5 lines exactly the same, so that I've got a little piece that will just collapse over like that, make a nice square like that for reinforcing the box. So you can use whatever measurements you want. I've used 2.5 centimeter width of the rulers, and you need to make 11 reinforcement strips. I've got 4 scored, and I'm just taking my cutter and cutting that off. And then just take your ruler and hold it along the line and just bend the cardboard along the score lines. I like to take them and flatten them completely like this, so I get a nice crisp edge to them. I'm using hot glue to glue my little pieces together now. So you should have your little support looking like that. I've opened my box out now so that I can start doing some of the reinforcing and cutting. And what I've done is I've marked, so I've noted that's the back and the top and then the sides, because there's only certain places that I'm putting reinforcing. So on the back I'm putting one of the pieces that is going to go all the way around the sides. So I'm going to be doing that on the inside of my box. I've split my box open at the top or on the side like that. So when you have a look at the box, the part that is actually going to be gluing down once we put the box together again is this particular part here. But that forms the part of the back. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm measuring my piece of support, and I'm going to be gluing it onto that little section over here, where we're going to finally glue it all back together again. So this one piece will go on there. I've just measured it, and I'm going to cut that off and glue that down. I've cut my piece of cardboard just a little bit shorter, because on the side that's got this funny base to it where it's not quite a nice solid piece. I'm taking a spare piece of cardboard and I'm going to be gluing that on the inside to strengthen the base on the box. So I've made the cardboard so that when I close the sides up like that, there's enough room that this particular piece is actually going to be fitting snug inside the box. I'm closing the box like that, and I'm going to be drawing where the line, where the support is touching this side of the box on the inside. So now I know where to put my next piece of support to make it just so that it'll touch this line here. I've measured and cut my piece of support, and I've done that on both sides, and now I'm going to just be gluing that in. Make sure when you glue it in that the sides close and you're not gluing past the line. So on that side, and on this side I've left that little space there for this particular piece of cardboard to fit in as well. So we've got both the supports on the side, and now I'm going to just be cutting this whole section only to this line here. I'm leaving everything intact, but I'm just removing this small little piece here. So I'm just taking my empty cutter and going to cut that out. I've cut the little pieces, and now, so when you lift it, that's actually going to be your locking door for removing your envelopes. So now I'm taking some more of the supports, and on the little door that we just cut out, I'm just cutting the little supports to fit in, and I'm going to be doing it on the 4 sides of the door. I've got all the little pieces cut out and ready to be glued on to the little door, so I'm just going to glue those on. When you're gluing, try and make sure that the little edge part is the part that you're gluing down, away from any of the mechanisms that are opening and closing. So just glue that in place like that. And then our door is quite nice and closes really well when you do it that way. On the top of the box, what I've done is measured it in half and measured it half that way, and I'm putting my ruler on the center part. So my halfway mark is my ruler. I would like the little gap for the envelopes to be posted into at 30 centimeters, so I'm marking, putting it on the 15 centimeter mark, and just marking the end of my ruler. So that will be like that. And then to get this part, to get my ruler is 2 centimeters, so I'm going to put it on the center line at 1 centimeter and mark at the 2 centimeter mark and the 1 centimeter, and then I'm going to just put my ruler between those lines and just draw that part to be cut out. And then we're just going to reinforce that as well. So we can cut that out, and then I'm putting reinforcements along the sides, along the length of the box, so that when people press on the box, it doesn't collapse. To make the reinforcements that are going to go around the letter slot, I've just taken the same pieces of cardboard that I used before, and 3 centimeters, and then I've scored the middle and I've done 3 centimeters, and then I'm going to just glue them together, and I'm using this nice clean ridge to glue onto the inside of where the letters will actually go through. So I'm using that clean edge on that side, and then I'm going to take that one and put another one here just to make the top a wee bit stronger. When you're cutting out using an X-Acto knife, always cut on the side that if your knife slips, it's not going to wreck your project. So I'm going to be cutting out the slit now, and I'm cutting this line which is going into the section that I don't want. I've got the little piece cut out now, and now I'm taking the pieces of reinforcement and going to glue them onto the sides. Like that, and then the spare ones are just going on the outside, and then there'll be the small one that'll go in the center. I've got all my reinforcing done, and now because I've got so many varieties of colors, for me to get it all white, I'm going to first paint it grey on both sides of the cardboard, because this side has also got a lot of different colors on it. I've got these small little fairy lights which I'm going to be using as well, so I'm just going to be making a little housing on the side of the box here in the middle, so it'll be at the side at the back, and I'm making it so that the little switch is the only thing that is sticking out of the box. On the side of the box, I've taken the little battery pack and I've just put it onto the box and traced around it. Now I'm doing it on the other side of the fold, so when the box closes, it's not going to interfere with the battery pack. And to make the little box, I've just got a chocolate box, and I'm going to put the batteries inside there, and I'm leaving this side to be the opening side so that when you want to take the battery pack out to change the batteries, you can still get it out. And then I'm going to be cutting this off just there and then making the box. So now taking the distance of that, which is 1.5 centimeters, I'm cutting the box 1.5 centimeters longer so that I can fold it over and glue it together. So that's where the battery pack is going to be sitting, and that's the fold over, and I'm just going to cut that out. And then the top, I'm going to be cutting at exactly the same distance as where the battery pack is going to be sitting in. So just trim that one down and just round the top off so that you can put it in. I've got the inside of the box painted in grey now, and I haven't painted this particular section here because that's where the spare piece of cardboard is going to be glued on, so I've painted the spare piece. Now what I'm doing is I'm just taking a sponge, just a little piece of sponge like that, and I've got some white paint, and all I'm going to be doing is dipping it in. You can paint the inside white. I just thought it would be a bit boring, so I'm just taking that and I'm going to be dabbing it just all over and then blending it in. So you get pretty much like a marble effect to that. It's all been painted now, and now I just wait for that to dry before I flip it over and do the other side. The front is all painted now, and I'm going to be using PVA glue and 1-ply toilet paper to do this next step. I'm just taking the toilet paper and just crumpling it a little bit so that it's got some nice shapes in it, and then I'm going to undo that and then stick that down. And I'm going to do the whole box just like that. For the section around the letterbox, using the same toilet paper, except this time I'm actually going to be just going on the end like that and then pushing it through the hole. And then trimming it off. And then continuing the box. When it comes to the door, I'm going to just be going over it completely, and then afterwards I will slice it from the inside when it's dry. I've got a piece of MDF which is 57 centimeters by 45 centimeters, and what I've done is I've just measured the center point and the size of the box, and I'm taking some of the little pieces of the tubing that we made, and this particular one is 2.5 by 2.5 by 2.5 all the way around, and what I've done is I've cut 5 centimeters at the bottom and split it so that I've got a little stand like that. So I'm marking the center line. So I'm taking my little piece of cardboard and I'm going to be gluing that underneath the box, which I'm going to be gluing on here, and that's to hold the bigger piece of piping that we made, which is the 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters. So I'm going to glue that down. Put the little pieces on, and I've taken the big pole off the top so that I can start gluing the box together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be gluing the base of the box to the wood, and I'm using hot glue to do that. And then to reinforce it, I've got some 16mm screws, because the piece of wood is only 12 mils long and I don't want it to go through. So with the cardboard and the size of the wood, the screws shouldn't go through. I've got my drill taped off at the size that I want to drill, and now I'm just going to drill 4 holes into my piece of cardboard in the corners. And then I'm going to screw them down. I've got it all glued down and I've put all the screws in. I actually decided to go with 6 screws, so I've put 1 to hold the leg in as well, so I've got 3 on that side and 3 on this side as well. I'm gluing the box together now, and I've taken the spare piece that we cut and I'm gluing it down the side, and then I'll be gluing the actual box to that, because this particular box doesn't have a very nice closure on it. As you can see, it's one of those strange shaped ones, so that's why we made this extra piece to go on the inside. Now that the box is all glued together, I'm going to take the excess toilet paper that I left when I did the original one and then close it over so that it closes where we've just glued the box together. Everything is dry now and I'm going to be painting it. Now, to paint the MDF, you need to have a primer, but I find that if I use a flat paint, it works just as well. So I'm going to be painting the whole thing in a white flat paint. For the roof, I've got the same size piece of cardboard as the MDF wood that is at the bottom, which is 45 centimeters by 57 centimeters, and I'm just going to paint that grey on both sides. I'm going to be working on the supports for the roof. Now I'm using my 3 centimeter ruler and I'm just going to be scoring in the middle over there and shifting the ruler again and then cutting off over there, so that I'm left with a piece like that, and then I'm going to glue those together. I've got all my pieces cut out and glued, and now I'm going to just paint them all grey. To put the roof supports in, I've got the little piece of cardboard that we glued together like that, and it's the same length as the actual box, and obviously the roofing is a lot longer. So what I'm doing is, to get the angle, I'm just taking my little piece of card and I'm measuring in 3.5 centimeters and I'm drawing an angle. So you eventually land up with a small little piece that looks like that, and when you place it into the center of the roof and collapse it up, it'll make your angles. And that depends on how steep you want your angle on your roofing to be. I don't want mine very, very steep, so that's why I've only gone for 3.5 centimeters. I've just balanced the cardboard roofing on top of the box and marked where the box lines up. And what I'm going to be doing is, when we've glued the side hole together like that, you'll see it lines up there. So I'm going to be gluing the roofing on that particular line so that it lies on the outside of the pole here. To get the center angle that goes over the roof like that, what I've done is I've taken two of the pieces and just placed them on top of each other, and now I'm just taking a marker and marking the center point of that onto there, and where it crosses over here I'm just marking on both of them, and then I'm going to draw a straight line down that way. And when it comes to this one, I'm just going to be tracing underneath here to get the angle to cut these two pieces off with. On the posts I've cut small angles, just little triangles on two sides of it, and on the other side I've just left a straight line, and on the angled side, on one side, on the inner section, I'm going to be cutting the straight line down like that so that it can hold the support for the roof, and it'll be fitting in like that, so I'm going to slot it in like that. On the roof I've marked in 1 centimeter from the edge, and I'm taking one of the strips that we made and I'm going to be gluing that on to the edge of the roof, but it's got a nice finish on the edge. For the capping I've done exactly the same as I did for the inside one, and I've just cut the angles so that they will fit on top of the roof like that. Now I'm just going to glue this top piece onto the roof over here, and I'm going to be making small little tabs underneath here to support it, because there's not an awful lot to glue onto here, so just so that it'll hold better I'm going to do that. I've cut some little pieces of cardboard that are 2 centimeters wide, and all I'm doing is I'm folding them over like that, so there's not a very big area at the back, and then they'll be stuck underneath there. I've glued the roof piece on, and I'm just taking these small wee tabs and going to be gluing them on. So just make sure that they're not sticking above this section here. So just take it out. Just so that it can support this a wee bit better. I've got all the pieces in place, so I've got the roof on, and now I'm just going to paint it all white. I've got this little English box, and what I've done is I've cut one strip off, and I'm going to be spray painting that gold. I've just put a very light coat on just so that it changes the darkness of the green, but I've left some of the green showing through. I've got a small piece of polystyrene, which is just from some packaging, which I'm going to be carving into a little handle. The size of my piece of polystyrene is 10 centimeters, and all I've done is I've drawn a little shape on it that I want to carve out, and I'm going to just use a sharp steak knife to cut that out, and then I'm going to be using a rasp to file it all down. So I've got the shape of it, and all I'm doing is taking the rasp and just rotating the piece of polystyrene like that so that I can get it to go round all the way. So just rotate your piece of polystyrene round and round until you get to the shape you want. I've got it shaped looking like a little piece of corn, and I'm going to take 240 grit sandpaper and sand it smooth. So just like that, and then just do the whole thing. I've got it all carved and sanded, and now I'm going to paint that the same colour white I'm using on the well. I've got another little piece of polystyrene which is also 10 centimeters long, and what I've done is I've just drawn a circle on the top which is the same size as the pole that I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to carve that out. I've got a piece of old curtain rod, and it's 54 centimeters long, and what I'm doing is I'm taking it and measuring on the side of our poles here, and I'm going to be cutting a hole on that side and another hole on this side by going through that particular pole. Measuring down from the top of the pole here, I'm going down 16 centimeters, and that's where I'm going to be cutting the hole out. To make the hole, I've just cut strips in it like that, so it will hold the pipe once the pipe is inserted in there. So I'm not actually cutting the hole out as such. To make the handle, I've got a coat hanger, and I'm just going to be cutting it just over there and there, so I can straighten it out. I've got my drill, and I'm going to be just drilling a hole in the center of the little handle, and the drill is not quite long enough to go to the end, so I don't have to mark that. And then with the other little piece of polystyrene that we've cut, I'm going to drill the same and then flip it around and go the other way, so that I've got a hole going through the center. And then I'm just threading. I've threaded the little piece that's straight onto the coat hanger now, and I've cut a small groove in the side here, so that this particular piece of coat hanger is sticking out at a right angle to that pipe. And then I'm going to be taking the little handle that we made and sticking that on, so it'll go flush with that. And then I'm just going to sand that so it's round and it looks like one piece. And then I've bent the top of the coat hanger at a right angle in the opposite direction, so like that. It's preferable if you can buy a little bucket. Unfortunately for me, I've looked everywhere and I can't find one, so I'll have to make one. So what I've got is just a paper cup, and I want the bucket to be just a little bit smaller, so I'm going to be cutting it off just over there and then poking 2 holes in the side and then threading the coat hanger through there. I've cut the bottom off the cup, and now I'm going to just take some masking tape and bulk this part up here, so that I can just drop it in there like that. So when you pick it up, it's got the little base at the bottom to look like a little bucket. I've just cut a little template of a heart out on a piece of paper, and I'm going to be tracing it onto my piece of cardboard, and I'm going to be doing 3 of them and then cutting them out. I've got the hearts cut out, and now I'm going to paint in the same white that I painted the whole well with. I've made my little bucket by threading the coat hanger wire through and just bending it so that it looks like a little loop, and now I'm going to paint it all white. I've painted the coat hanger handle white as well. I've made an indentation of the pipe that I'm using, and I'm going to be cutting about 1 centimeter extra around it, and then I'm painting it in gold and then cutting the strips like that so that I can collapse it to get just that size. I'm going to be painting it on the reverse side, so that when it comes to cutting it out, I've still got my diagram of how to cut it. I've got my little piece all painted, and I've poked a hole in the center, and now all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bending these tabs. I've left the back so that I can know to bend it along this circle here. I've got it all collapsed up now, and now I'm going to take the handle that we made, which is the little tiny handle like that, and just insert it into the little hole in the center. Move it all the way down. When you cut your cardboard off with a little piece to go in, try and make them that you've got points so that there's not too much bulk to get inside the tube, so when you collapse it up it's quite nice and small. So now that we've got the little piece on, I'm going to just bend this part over. It doesn't matter where you bend it, just as long as you bend it so it doesn't pull out of the pole. Now we're going to insert it into the pole, and we're going to collapse all these pieces around and squish them inside the pipe, so we've got a little cap sitting on the end like that. Once you've got it fitting inside your tube, now you can just hot glue that in. My hearts are dry now, and I'm taking some rich gold paint, which is a metallic finish, and I'm going to be just going around the heart like that, and I'm using a number 6 flat brush to do that, so they'll look like that. My little bucket is dry now, and I'm going to be taking the rich gold again and my number 6 flat brush, and I'm just going to be going around the ridge and putting a stripe around the bottom as well. I'm going to be using this macrame cord to tie my little bucket onto the pole. I'm using 1 meter of the cord to wrap around the pole. I've just wrapped the rope around the pole and knotted it at the end, and I'm just going to be gluing that onto the end of my pole, just like that, so that the pole can still rotate and let the bucket descend, and then of course go back up again. I bought this rather cute lock because I couldn't get one of the ones that you can put a lock onto it, so I thought this one would be quite appropriate. So it's a nice, and it's got a beautiful key like that, and a lovely covering, which is what I'm going to be using on our little door. I've measured the center of my door, and I'm just going to take my drill and drill the hole where the little cover plate goes on, like that. I've drilled the hole into my little box, and I'm taking the key and placing it through the hole, and then I'm going to be attaching the backing to the key so I can work out exactly where to place my little lock. And I'm going to be gluing them down as well as screwing them in, because we're working on cardboard. If you were doing the wood, you just screw them in. So I've come across a wee problem. So when I put the key and the lock together, the key only goes into the lock to that particular mark, and unfortunately our little drill is just that little bit too wide, so I'm going to have to modify the back of this. So I'm going to be cutting this small section out and then inserting a piece of cardboard underneath that and gluing that onto there so that I can get a half a centimeter drop down to make this part a wee bit shorter for the lock. I've cut the little recess out so that the lock fits just in there, and all I've done is I've cut small pieces of cardboard and stuck it in there, and I'm going to be gluing them in. So depending on the height that you think that you need, so this one I think will be quite okay for when it closes up. It closes behind. So that's what I'm doing with this. I'm gluing in 4 little pieces like that. On one of the hearts that I painted the gold around it, I've got some of this really fine gold, like snake ribbon, and I'm going to just glue that around the heart like that. I'm just using hot glue to do that. I'm going to be using this same little, it looks like a little plaited like snake ribbon. It's not elastic, it's just a ribbon, and I'm going to be just gluing that all the way around the letter entry box just to neaten it up a wee bit. So I'll go all the way around with some hot glue. I'm going to be starting to glue my little ribbon in the middle of the slot there so that the corners are all the same and it'll join neatly there. I've glued all those little gold ribbon all around there, and now I'm going to start on some of the decorations for the front of it. For the front I'm using the same gold ribbon, and I'm just going to be gluing it all the way around the outside of the box and along the top like that, and down the other side. I've got these really small 2mm pearl beads, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be gluing them onto the side of the box and draping them along the top. And what I've done is I've taken 17 of the little pearls, and then just cross the beads over just there so that they stay in place, so that there's like a little petal, and I'm just gluing that all on. So I've got 2 of them all, and I'm just going to be placing a third one just so that it can make a smaller drape like that. I bought these rather beautiful organza roses with small tiny little pearls in it, and I'm going to be placing those ones just on the side over here. I've got 2 of those. I've got the 2 flowers in place, and now I'm taking the little heart that we made, and I'm going to be gluing it in the center just like that. The little piece of hedge that we spray painted gold, I'm placing right at the bottom of the box on the wood next to the pole. I'm just going to glue that all the way around to the other pole on the other side, so it'll go all along the front as well, just like that. I've got some white ribbon that's got some gold trim on it, and I'm just going to be making a little ribbon for the front. So I don't want a very, very big one, so I'm just folding it over like that, and then crossing it over again. So I want a tail of about 15 centimeters. I'll just check to see if that's the size I want. So that's about, measuring the actual ribbon size at about 5 centimeters, and then all I'm going to do is take a small piece of wire like that and just collapse the ribbon in the middle, and then tie the wire around there. Just make sure both sides are the same, and then attach it at the back by just twisting the wire like that. So there's my wee ribbon, and then I'm going to cut the other leg the same size. I've got all the hedge glued on, and now I'm just going to be gluing my little ribbon just in front of the heart like that. I've got this little assortment of pearls and beads, and I'm going to be taking the little heart to glue onto the center of the ribbon, just like that. To transport the well, I'm making it in 2 pieces. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using 2 different systems of using velcros. So the first one I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be gluing a piece of velcro going down like this and then across the roof, so that the velcros will just be able to stick down. And I'm doing one on this side and one on the opposite side. So I'm going to be putting them in the corners, and then in the center here I'm going to use a different method of attaching that so that it'll be easy to get the roof off. For the ones that are on this side, I'm taking 3.5 centimeters and an 8 centimeter one. Now I'm choosing to put this soft fluffy side on the roof, and this one is going to be on the inside, which is the hook one attached to the actual crossbar of the well. For the velcros in the center, I've taken 6 centimeters of velcros, and I'm going to just split that open and reverse it so that it glues or sticks like that. And I'm going to be gluing that together and then gluing that to the roof, so that when it wraps around the pole, it'll just stick like that and hold the roof on. I've glued the hook one to the crossbar, and now I'm going to be taking the soft one, and then this is actually going to be going up like that and then onto there. So I'm just going to place that onto there like that, so that I know where to glue it on the top. So that'll go like that, and then I'm going to glue this piece up here. I've glued the side pieces onto the wall as well. So there's one on this side of the wall, and then the other one is on the opposite side, like that. I've taken the roof off, and now I'm going to be gluing this piece down just making sure that you're not gluing it the wrong way round. So it's going to be glued down like that, so that when it turns over, the Velcro catches like that. I bought some artificial rose garlands, which I'm going to be using to put on the top of the well. I'm going to be attaching the garland in 3 separate parts. So I have one part that goes up that side and stops at the top over there, and the same on the other side, and the balance is going to go on the top, so that when the roof comes off, there's no interference with the flowers that are going to be down the side. I've just positioned the flowers on this side so that I'm starting off with the rose right at the base here, and I've just wound it round the column until I get to the top over here. Now I'm actually going to be cutting that just there so that the next flower can actually be glued onto the roof and then go up over the top of the roof. I'm going to be using hot glue to just glue those all on with. I've got the one side glued on, and as you can see, I've stopped it just at the top here with the leaf, and now I'm taking the leaf and the rose and going to attach that to the roof. And the side where I've got my little well handle, I'm not going to be taking it up to the top here. I'm going to be stopping this one on this side with the leaf at the top like that. You can arrange the flowers on the top however that you choose. I want to have just a tiny little drape going like that. So now I'm going to just be trimming the flowers off on this side, because from the other side, the last flower I've glued to the roof here, and now I'm just going to cut the rest off so that I've got the leaf joining to the flower. I've glued the box inside for the fairy lights, and I've just opened them to take them out so that I can put them around the well. I'm going to be starting on the opposite side to where the battery pack is. So I'm going to start the lights over here so that there's just a small little bit that they're going to have to put on when they assemble the well. I've just weaved the lights round the whole well, just like that, so when it comes time for them to assemble, they just have to undo that one and just wind this little piece around on that side and this little piece around on that side, so that the battery pack and that is all separate over here, that they will just put back into the little hole that we made just there. The last final thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be writing the bride and the groom's names onto these hearts, and then the whole thing is completed. To attach the names to the roof, I'm using Velcro so that the bride and groom can take their names for their keepsake. And there's the wishing well completed with its little lights on as well.